Good evening, I'm Shane Jones, leading the news at 7. The focus today was on the 5% raise for public servants in the Senate. And leader of government business in the Senate, Senator Jerome Wolcott, supported calls for the removal of partisan politics and for the upper chamber to work together for a stabilized Barbados. During debate on the Public Service General Order 2018, Senator Wolcott defended the 5% pay raise for public servants, stating the workers have not had a pay increase in years.
We recognize that 5%, some might say it is not a lot of money. But as I said, every little bit counts. When you've been making sacrifices for over 10 years, with the hardships that you're faced with, and I'm sure that we will recognize that it will go tremendously long way. It has come to the Barbados Labour Party to do this. A party founded in 1938 as a Labour Party interested in the rights of the workers and recognizing the issues of labor. A party out of which came the Barbados Workers' Union, showing the nexus between the party and the union, how it felt about labor and the importance of labor in this country.
Senator Wolcott says Barbados would not have achieved the successes of the past years without the hard work and diligence of public servants.
It extends, as I said, to all sectors. And with time, a lot of them have garnered their skills, have moved forward as there have been developments where technological in terms of IT support, and they've made themselves marketable and they fit in themselves for the duty which is required of a small country like ours in moving forward.
Opposition Senator Caswell likened the 5% salary increase to pittances. Now he believes it's not enough, especially for civil servants at the bottom of the pay scale.
This salary revision here now, I understand it will cost the government $60 million. There was no harm in juggling those figures so that the people at the bottom, Z38 in the public service scale, the general workers, the mayors, the messengers, those people could get a little bit more, and the people at the top could get a little bit less. Because, sir, at Z38, which is the bottom of the salary scale, the public servants, the people at the bottom, they will get $96.84, a princely sum of $96.84. Mind you, they will lose $45 of it if they go up pipe.
Meanwhile, as government moves ahead to restructure the economy, Senator Franklin doesn't want a repeat of what transpired under the previous administration with respect to layoffs. The opposition senator also took issue with the number of permanent secretaries and ministers of government.
You don't need all these ministers. I worked out, and this is what I'm saying, you need, I worked out about 10. Prime Minister's office, Office of the Attorney General, Labor, of course, Health, Education, Finance, Agriculture, Foreign Affairs, Public Works, and Trade. Every other ministry that you have could fit into one of these.
Government Senator Lisa Cummins wants to see a change in the culture of the public service. She says under the last administration, there was a toxic environment due to some of its policies.
I would love to see us look at the question of culture so that we create a broad framework where labor matters, people matter, but productivity and delivery of results also is prioritized in our civil service. And as a result, Mr. President, I want to end my comments by simply saying that this is bigger than a simple 5% increase. This is a development question.
The appointment of Charles Young as communications consultant to the government continues to raise contention. This time it happened in the Senate. As Minister of Information, Senator Lucille Moore praised Prime Minister Mia Amor-Motley's efforts to better connect with Barbados. Outspoken opposition Senator Caswell again took aim at the appointment.
So don't make light of the fact that the Prime Minister has ignored the law and put somebody in the communications post. The post in this order that she signed recently, Director of Communications, it's a public service post. Then she turn around and ignore it and put somebody else in one of these fancy things. It doesn't work like that. We have a law, and we must obey the law.
However, in a strong response, Senator Moe defended the appointment, stressing that the overwhelming mandate given to government at the polls demands a different approach to communication with the population. She argued that over the years, all prime ministers appointed consultants to serve in areas they deemed important for the country at the time, and argues that Prime Minister Motley is doing the same thing.
This consultant is one to ensure that the people of Barbados know what's happening in their country. They can see the leader of this country that people voted for overwhelmingly, a party and a leader that had the largest victory in the history of Barbadian politics. So as a result, if anyone has a right to ensure Barbadians can see what they were elected to do, is a government that Bajans have said, we want you and we want to see what you are doing. And that is why you would have a consultant in that area. That may even be why I'm standing up here talking right now.
Senators deserve a higher duty allowance. This was the forceful cry of independent Senator Monique Tate, who stressed the importance of the Senate to the country. She pointed out allowances of some chairpersons on statutory boards were higher than senators. She says with the additional ministries in the Motley administration, the workload of the Senate has significantly increased.
And I'm asking that sooner rather than later, and sooner and before there can be an increase on anyone else's income, that the senators of the Parliament of Barbados, who are tasked with looking after the social, economic, and legal issues that impact the people of Barbados, be compensated for the time that they spend looking after the people's business in a way that is not, to use my words, mock sport.
We stick to the debate on the 5% pay raise, but this time we turn to the lower house and hear that tenants who owe money to the Barbados Investment and Development Corporation are being told to pay up. International Business and Industry Minister Ronald Toppan says government has been lenient with defaulters and has given them time to settle their arrears.
I know that in the last 10 years or so, times have been hard, and with the best will in the world, you can always meet your payments and so on. But we really, upon the change of this government, I was confronted on day one with a decision obviously taken by the previous administration to take very extreme action against some of the tenants at BIDC. There was an intervention by the government, Mr. Speaker, and we said no, hold off on that, give the people a chance. They're just going through some a train decade, give them a chance. So no tenant can now say that they are on the verge of being evicted. Not right now. They have been given a grace period.
Former United States Attorney General Eric Holder Jr. has expressed confidence in Prime Minister Mia Motley and her administration. The former Attorney General, whose father and grandparents are Barbadian, is here on vacation. He was speaking during a tour of the Eric Holder Jr. Municipal Complex with Prime Minister Motley and Attorney General Dale Marshall. Mr. Holder says the administration can help the country with the issues it faces.
I think the Prime Minister, the Attorney General are engaged in a serious process that will help this nation deal with the problems that she has confronted coming into office. I have great confidence in her abilities. She's a person who is not only a colleague who I respect, she is a friend, and I think Barbados is indeed very lucky to have her leading this great nation.
Now, Prime Minister Mia Motley says many Barbadians, including herself, are proud of Mr. Holder and what he has achieved.
We believe that he represents the best of Barbadian values, as he has had a distinguished career in the United States of America and is globally recognized as one of those citizens who has upheld the rule of law in this very difficult and challenging time in the world's history.
And Prime Minister Motley has received an extensive briefing from the European Union on its existing and upcoming programs and how Barbados may benefit from them. Ms. Motley and several of her ministers met recently with the EU's ambassador to Barbados, Daniela Tramachere, and her team, who made the comprehensive presentation on EU-funded bilateral, regional, and thematic programs. The follow-up meeting came out of a recent courtesy call with Ms. Tramachere. Prime Minister Motley explained Barbados truly valued its relationship with the EU, which she described as mutually beneficial. Ambassador Tramachere agreed there's a need for a coordinator at the national level so there could be follow-up of the programs. Well, after the break, an update on the South Coast Sewage Project.
This week on Water Wednesdays, hear from the Minister of Energy and Water Resources, Wilfred Abrams, as he outlines his vision for the BWA and the South Coast sewage crisis.
You were talking about the end of the year. I'm talking about before that. As fast as we can get it done, we have to get it done because Barbados deserves better.
Water Wednesdays, every Wednesday at 7:55 in the CBC Evening News.
Minister of Education Santia Bradshaw thinks it's time to include the Barbados Cadet Corps more in the country's education system. During the opening ceremony of the 31st Caribbean Conference for Cadets, she hailed the Corps as a critical program in replacing at-risk youth on the right track.
I do feel that the time has now come for us to look even further in enshrining the Cadet Corps as a way of life within the educational system. As a representative of a constituency where I see many young people falling through the cracks, I do believe that the discipline and certainly the well-balanced individuals that I see coming out of the Cadet Corps is something that certainly must be encouraged across the educational system.
Minister Bradshaw is also calling for support from corporate Barbados for initiatives like the Cadet Corps.
It is something that we also have to pause and not only encourage corporate Barbados, but we must now engage the financial sector and certainly the Ministry of Finance in looking to find ways to see how our respective tax incentives can so be deployed to encourage people to sponsor these programs across the educational system.
During the ceremony, commandants from across the region were presented with a book written by retired Major Patrick Skeet. They were also treated to performances by members of the Barbados Cadet Corps Band. Meanwhile, Commandant of the Barbados Cadet Corps, Lieutenant Colonel Errol Brathwaite, gave some insight into the organization's most recent work.
During the summer camp, our project involved some assistance to the geriatric hospital, where some much needed assistance was rendered to the senior citizens at that facility. This project, ladies and gentlemen, is critical, a critical part of the Cadet Corps' focused engagement activities with the community.
Today is Panama Day, the day that Barbados commemorates the inauguration of the Panama Canal. Foreign Affairs Minister Senator Jerome Wolcott says Panama Day serves as a tribute to the many Barbadians who traveled there. Over 20,000 Barbadians answered the call to supply labor for the canal that connects the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. According to Senator Wolcott, for Barbados, the Panama Canal is not only a magnificent structure, but also a symbol of industry and sacrifice. Local teenagers will soon have even more help from social workers, counseling psychologists, and trained graduate teachers to develop life skills. That's because the Supporting Our Society charity plans to extend its SAFE program beyond summer. Now, SAFE is an acronym for Shaping Our Adolescents to Function in Their Environment. President Fabian Sargent says the decision has been influenced by several requests from parents.
From year one, parents have been asking, will there be a safe zone? Will you continue safe zone? Will you guys have a safe zone or a safe zone? And yes, this year we're exploring that option, and we're going to do that in phases, like anything else. We're going to have a 12-week program. The details are not noticed yet, but everyone will be notified. And then, based on that 12-week program, with everything else, we will do our evaluating and so forth, and see where we have to tweak, and then we probably look to extend it.
34 children recently graduated from the 2018 program. Featured speaker Pastor Roger Husbands reminded the children they can achieve anything with a positive mindset.
A bird can fly anywhere. A chicken can only go here. Can't go too far. Because when you start to see how big your sky is, you will start to achieve the unachievable. Let me tell you something, right? Let me show you this. The same man that went prison, the same man that went rehab, the same man that wanted to kill himself millions of times. This man that can read and write properly. Started to achieve. I went and get some certificates in counseling, went to Tobago and study in drug counseling. Did some online courses. Started a program. Started businesses. The same man that could never be nothing else but a chicken, nah. About that.
In Belize, an argument between friends ended in tragedy as one was stabbed and killed. The 19-year-old was accused of snitching on his friend. The young man attempted to run away from the argument but was followed into a bar and stabbed.
In a matter of seconds, Tate was stabbed once to the neck. The incident unfolded so quickly that those inside the bar did not realize how serious the injury was.
I just saw him burst in, and the other guy came like running behind him, but I wasn't really paying attention to them. And then I saw him holding his neck, but I thought this was just like a simple fight they had, or I don't know, but he was holding his neck, and the other guy like burst in, and then when he like moved his hand from around his neck, I started blood was like squirting, and then the other guy like ran outside. He was like I don't know, he was going.
Tate attempted to pursue his attacker, but the wound was too deep. He was losing too much blood too quickly. He was dying in front of about a dozen persons.
I went outside, then I started screaming and telling them someone to please take off their shirt so that we press the cut, right? And then, but I don't really know with what he got stabbed because I wasn't paying attention like I said. So I went outside and he still took off his shirt because he was standing up still. He took off his shirt and I pressed his like womb, like and then I couldn't help him no more because I saw blood and I passed away. Then I saw people were helping him, but then he had lost a lot of blood. So a car passed and they took him like with his friends. Well, some guys that were there just took him to the hospital. We tried to help. He didn't pass away here.
Tate passed away at the Western Regional Hospital about a half hour later. His stepbrother, Enrique Lopez, says Tate's murder stems from a senseless argument over a bicycle.
In Trinidad and Tobago, Acting Attorney General Fitzgerald Hines was given an unceremonious bath with flood water by constituents in Beetham Gardens. Hines, the MP for Laventille West, was in the area to see the effect of the steady rain and flooding when residents became irate. We get more in the CNC3 report.
Acting Attorney General and Laventille West MP Fitzgerald Hines and Beetham Councillor Akil Ordain were chased out of their community by Beetham residents who drenched both men with flood waters. The residents say their action was due to a lack of representation by the government. This is the second consecutive day residents were affected by floods, and over 40 homes in the area were affected. The MP and councillor were in the area meeting affected residents. Mr. Hines was telling the media that the situation in Beetham was a disaster and relief was on the way.
Situation, in my view, is a crisis of sorts. I have had the opportunity to see people's houses are completely flooded out. They have lost all of their possessions, refrigerators, stoves, all their furniture, and to exacerbate this is the third time they have been going through this in a matter of 6 weeks.
But it was during this interview that residents became irate. This is when water was thrown at the MP and councillor.
Let's go see us. Somebody is there, man. Help who? What is doing? What is doing?
MP Hines and Councillor Ordain both sought refuge and ran out of 16th Street on Beetham Gardens. Community leader Anderson Williams says he supports the action by the residents because they are faced with many issues.
Visa debit and Visa credit card holders in the Bahamas have fallen victim to skimming as thousands of dollars were wiped off their accounts. It is unclear how many people may have been affected by the skimming attack, which targeted Royal Bank of Canada customers, as we hear from Eyewitness News.
The latest scam to RBC customers comes as no surprise to police. They're seeing as banks become more and more digitized, promoting online usage. The crimes have also increased on the internet. RBC recently launched a campaign encouraging its customers to conduct more of its banking online than in the branches. This recent scam, confirmed to have taken place at ATMs, has compromised the bank's system as scores of customers report money missing from their accounts. Police believe they know how it happened.
This is the actual device that reads the information of the card, and you'll know that it lines up with the magnetic strip that when you put your card in, you simply just swipe in your card again. You're doing a swipe on your card, and when you take it out, the information then sent to the integrated chips here, the circuit, that stores the information in it. It's almost like a memory, right? And then the pins right there that would actually, you can actually extract the information and download it to your system, reproduce your card, as the case may be.
On Monday, customers piled into branches seeking for answers, but for many, they were far and few in between. When Eyewitness News contacted the corporate office, we too were referred to the regional office out of country for a response. That's where we were given the statement from Jacqueline Target, Director of Corporate Communications. She says RBC confirms that we have identified a skimming incident that has victimized a number of our Visa debit and Visa credit cards in the Bahamas in a coordinated and aggressive criminal effort. We are now in the process of contacting clients who have been affected. To contain this fraudulent activity, RBC has implemented restrictions on all affected Visa cards. We know that at this time of the year, with vacations and back-to-school expenses, these restrictions may inconvenience our clients, and we will work with them to minimize the disruption. All affected cards will be replaced as soon as possible.
The Caribbean, brought to you by CIBC First Caribbean.
Sports news is just ahead, but before we get there, here's a tip from Cooperators General Insurance.
This tip of the day is brought to you by Cooperators General Insurance Company Limited. Insurance the way you want it to be.
After a hurricane, do not use your car unnecessarily, as this should help to conserve gasoline. Cooperators General Insurance, helping you to be prepared this hurricane season.